continuing with the theme of personalities from Ramayana, and a little background. By a series of enthusiastic requests, the annual visit to holy places during Kartik month some years ago became Ayodhya and Chitrakoot. So we discussed that section of the Mahabharata. Bala Kanda and Ayodhya Kanda. And then so it was, let's go to the other places. So we went Aranya Kanda and Kishkinda Kanda. And that's the inspiration for this is, along with narrating the pastimes, I thought it might be nice, and so that's what we're doing, is covering the personalities, not just, the Ramayana as it flows, but personalities from Ramayana, which ends up some repetition of the pastime, but it's the focus on the personalities. So yesterday we discussed Valmiki, and there was a question during the class that was unsure of, so we did a little research. The question was, in addition to Ramayana, did Valmiki write other things? That was the question. And the research says there are there's at least one likely one, or at least commonly accepted one. Yoga Vashishta is attributed to Valmiki. It's about Lord Ramachandra's pastimes, certain sections of his pastimes. And yesterday we made reference to Ananda Ramayana, and little research. Some scholars say Valmiki is the author of Ananda Ramayana, and some other scholars say he's an unknown author sometime in the 17th century. So maybe Ananda Ramayana, but commonly accepted is Yoga Vashishta. And there are persons who are particularly renowned for Yoga Vashishta narration, the Katha. It's an extensive publication, and then narrating it. I mentioned at the beginning, and I hope you received, if you didn't receive, you'll receive it, a document that gives a list of various other Ramayanas besides Valmiki Ramayana. Did anyone not receive that? You received it. You received it, okay. Well, this morning we're going to touch on two of them. And one of them is the source of this celebrated image of Hanuman opening his chest and showing Ram's inside, in his heart, and more so. Is from Kritivasi Ramayana. Kritivasi Ramayana is authored by Kritivasan, a South Indian Vaishnava. And the excerpt, the passage from Kritivasi Ramayana goes like this. Ram and Sita and Lakshman are now back in Ayodhya. And after all the greetings of everyone is very enthusiastic to have him installed as the king. So on the occasion of that installation, as is the custom, there are gifts given to not only the Brahmanas, but many, many people. So in one section, Sita has this very special necklace. Very, very special. And everyone just seeing the necklace is stunned at its exquisite features and so forth. Jewels and things. So Sita looks to Ram to see who she should give the necklace to. And without his saying a word, she understands. He wants her to decide. It's her necklace. He wants her to decide. So she looks around, and in this section, she out loud says for everyone to hear, "Who is it?" And then lists some of the attributes of Hanuman. And, rescued me from the greatest of dangers. Who is it that the services and the mood, who has these qualities, characteristics? And she looks to Hanuman. And she stands up and personally places the necklace, this exquisite necklace, around the neck of Hanuman. Hanuman looks at the necklace and then suddenly breaks the string of the necklace and starts to eat all of the jewels and things that are there on the necklace. And Lakshman asks Sita, "Why did you give this to the monkey?" Because monkeys do things like this. They don't understand the value of things of this world. And Sita looks to Ram. Ram smiles. And Ram says, "I think you should ask Hanuman. You're criticizing, you're speaking of him as nothing but an animal. But ask him, why did he begin breaking and eating?" So Lakshman asks, "This is very unusual behavior. Could you explain?" So Hanuman said, "When I saw this necklace, because it was from Sita, I assumed it was one of the most valuable, precious items in the world. But when I looked at it, Ram's name is not anywhere. And anything does not have the name of Ram is useless and should be discarded." So Lakshman said, "Hanuman, then what about your body? I don't see Ram's name written on your body anywhere." So then Hanuman, in front of everybody, opens up his chest, like you see on the screen. There's many such images. And he shows not only Ram is in his heart, but according to Kritivasi Ramayana, he shows that the name of Ram is on every bone in thousands and thousands and thousands of times. And he closes his chest. And everyone is stunned, and Lakshman says, "I had no idea of your it's how to estimate your greatness. There's no devotee like you in this world." That's the Kritivasi Ramayana. And another Ramayana is Adhyatma Ramayana. You saw it in your list that you received. It's referenced in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila chapter 9, in the purport. Prabhupada is expressing that in Adhyatma Ramayana, there are 3 chapters dedicated simply to speaking about deity worship of Sita Ram. And in that section, there's mention of one Brahmana in Ayodhya that had a vow that he would not eat each day until he had the opportunity to see Ram. And then from time to time, Ram would have to go from Ayodhya to take care of something. And so the Brahmana would fast. until Ram returned, and it became known by Ramachandra. This is his standard. So he instructed Lakshmana to arrange for a deity of Sitaram, and that deity of Sitaram should be given by Lakshman to the Brahmana. So Lakshman made the deity, gave the deity to the Brahmana, and for his life he worshipped the deity. At the end of his life, he gave the deity to Hanuman, and Hanuman worshipped the deity, according to Adhyatma Ramayana, for a long, long time. And then, according to Adhyatma Ramayana, when Hanuman left, before he left the world from Gandhamadana mountain, he gave the deity to Bhima, because Bhima is also the son of Vayu. And Bhima worship brought the deity to the palace, special place for worship of the deity of Ram and Sita, and it was passed on through generation and generation through the Pandava dynasty until the last in that line, Kshema Kanta. Kshema Kanta then gave the deity to the kings of Orissa, and 2 weeks before the departure from this world of Madhvacharya, he was given the deities, Sitaram. And to this day, Prabhupada writes in this purport, the deities are being worshipped in Udupi, going back to the Ikshvaku dynasty time of Lord Ram. So Hanuman was directly involved in this. That's why I'm bringing it up. Nice image of Hanuman there up on the wall. So a little background on the appearance of Hanuman. Let's go to Balakanda of Ramayana. When the yajna was being performed by Rishi Shringha, while the yajna was going on, the demigods assembled in the sky, appealing for Lord Vishnu to appear. And Lord Vishnu agreed to appear. And he instructed the demigods, as he did with Krishna's appearance, that they should take birth on earth to assist him. That message was conveyed by Brahma to the demigods, and specifically, I'm going to read a little section from Ramayana, where it describes what Brahma's instructions were. Now, essentially, it was there was a boon given by Brahma that Ravan could be killed by demigods. So the instruction was for them to appear as children or offspring in descendants amongst the Vanaras, etc. Directly from Balakanda. When Lord Vishnu manifested himself with the sons of Dasara, the self-born Lord Brahma said to the gods, Vishnu is true to his promise, valiant and our well-wisher. Procreate soldiers and assistants for him with forms which they can change at will. They should be conversant with magical spells, brave, swift as the wind in speed, conversant in politics, endowed with intelligence, equal to Lord Vishnu in prowess, indestructible, conversant with devices, endowed with supernatural bodies, knowledgeable about all types of weapons, and, like the demigods who partake in the nectar of immortality, in the wombs of principal Apsaras and Gandharvas, in the daughters of Yakshas and Nagas, in the wombs of bears and Vidyadharis, Kinnaris, and monkeys, beget offspring equal to yourselves in prowess. I have already begotten Jambavan, the chief of the bears, from my mouth. He was born suddenly when I once yawned. That's from the way the beginning of creation. When he yawned, the Vedas also manifest. And Madhu and Kaitava tried to steal the Vedas. And Vishnu was appealed. Vishnu killed Madhu and Kaitava. And Jambavan was the witness, and he was cheering. Yay! So Jambavan's a Chiranjiva. He lives a long time. Having been thus instructed by Brahma, they accepted his command and begot sons in the forms of monkeys. Indra begot Bali. The sun begot Sugriva. Brahaspati begot the great monkey named Tara, etc., etc. The two Ashvinis, endowed with the wealth of physical beauty, personally begot Mainda and Dvidvida. Varuna begot the monkey named Sushena. The mighty Parjanya begot Sharabha. From the wind god, Vayu, was born the glorious monkey Hanuman, whose body was as strong as the thunderbolt and equal to Garuda in speed. He is the most intelligent and strong of all the various monkeys. I'll read some more, it's nice. The bears, monkeys, and langurs took birth quickly. Each displayed a form, appearance, and prowess like that of the demigod who begot him. They could assume any form at will and were endowed with strength. They could wander wherever they wished. They were like lions and tigers in pride and strength. They could all use boulders as projectiles and mountains as weapons. They had claws and teeth as weapons and were skilled in the use of various arms. They could shake great mountains and split standing trees. By their swift movement, they could agitate the ocean, who is the Lord of rivers. They could enter into the sky and even catch a cloud. They could even capture mad elephants wandering in the jungle. By their yells, they could cause screeching birds to fall. 1,000,000 such great-souled monkeys who could assume any form and lead the monkey troops were born. All the monkey generals rallied around two brothers, Sugriva, the son of the sun god, and Bali, the son of Indra. Others followed Nala, Nila, and Hanuman. Now, a detail about the births of these Vanaras, as soon as they were conceived, they took birth immediately. And this description of Hanuman's birth is told in detail by Agastya to Ram. Later in Ayodhya, Agastya visits, so he tells the story of Hanuman's birth. And there was an Apsara named Punja Kastala, who doesn't give the reason, but she was cursed to take birth on earth and in the form of a monkey, but she retained her powers to change her shape however she liked, and sometimes very, very beautiful. So she became the daughter of a monkey chief named Kunjara. And she was married after some time to Keshari, another noble monkey chief. And one day, Anjana, now by the name Anjana, was wandering on the top of a mountain, and Vayu saw her beautiful form, etc., 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 became following the instruction of Brahma. He, by the force of wind and mystic powers, without violating her physically, she became pregnant, and shortly thereafter, a child was born. And she was surprised and very disturbed, naturally so. And Vayu manifested himself and said, "Do not worry. You have not been violated, and this son of yours will be a very wonderful personality who will assist in the mission of Lord Vishnu when he appears in this world." So she became somewhat pacified, and she's now the mother of Anjani, Anjaneya, is the son of Anjani, or Anjana. So there's nice paintings. There's the father and the small child playing with one another. Anjana Sutta is one of his names. Anjaneya is another one of his names. And she enjoyed being the mother of Hanuman. And when Hanuman was very little, he was very naturally very playful. And at the same time, you see him with a club. He was very powerful. And one time she went to gather some edibles for Hanuman, and he saw in the sky, there's different versions of how this happened from different Ramayanas, but he wanted a fruit, and he saw the sun in the sky because he had all these incredible powers. You know how it goes. He went soaring into the sky to capture the fruit. And different paintings are showing this pastime. And as he was approaching the sun, again, there's different Ramayanas that have different versions of this. Some speak of Rahu. It was time for Rahu to devour the sun, and he saw this monkey was a competitor, and so he went to Indra for help. Others don't mention Rahu at all. It just says Indra saw him soaring through the sky, heading for the sun, and who is this? And so he sent a thunderbolt to stop his forward progress. And the thunderbolt then hit Hanuman. I like this particular painting. It's very nice. So he was attacked by Indra's thunderbolt weapon. And here's one of these British library or British museum paintings. At the top, there's Hanuman leaping towards the sun, and followed behind him is Vayu on a deer, and over to the right is Indra chasing with his thunderbolt weapon. And then in the center is where he fell onto a mountain. So here's Indra's thunderbolt hitting his jaw. And that's the meaning of his name, Hanuman. Because it is Hanu means jaw. The key of the great jaw. There's another little drawing. There's Indra with his thunderbolt. Here's Hanuman getting zapped by the thunderbolt. Another painting of Indra with his thunderbolt. And when hit by the thunderbolt, he fell from the sky. And he landed on a mountaintop. And Vayu followed him, saw the crash landing, became very, very angry. And in retaliation, what Indra had done, he stopped the airflow in the entire universe. And this was very difficult because people couldn't breathe. Something similar to what Dhruva did. Not the same process, but Vayu stopped the flow of air in the universe. So the demigods approached Lord Brahma. Now there's disturbance. Vayu is making things difficult. So here, this is another British library painting. The living creatures affected by Vayu's action are shown pleading with Brahma. That's they're coming to Brahma. He's in the upper right. They're coming to him saying help. In the lower portion, Brahma touches Hanuman to restore him to life. Vayu is pleased and restores the vital breath to all living things, and each god grants Hanuman a boon, giving him great strength. So these old paintings have several parts of the story in one painting. Kind of traditional. Here's the benedictions I want to read. Brahma, who is pictured on the right, and then Lord Shiva, etc. Brahma speaks first. Brahma granted him a boon that he would be invincible to all weapons in war. O gods, as I tell you about this Vanara, he will accomplish your purpose on earth and become famous as a servant of Vishnu. You should all grant him boons. In the painting, that's Indra who threw the thunderbolt. Indra took off his garland and placed it around Hanuman's neck. From this day he shall be invulnerable to my thunderbolt. And then he gave him at this time the name Hanuman. The sun god then said, I shall bestow upon him 100th part of my brilliance. Also, when he begins to study the scriptures, I shall enable him to quickly learn all aspects of knowledge. In Valmiki Ramayana, it doesn't say how it happened. But we come to know that the sun god gave spiritual or scriptural instructions. He trained him in the scriptures. That we know is from the time when, the beginning of Sundarakanda, when he's getting ready to jump from Mahendra mountain to Lanka. He looks to the east and offers obeisances to his spiritual master, Hanuman, to sun god, from his scriptural training. But it's nice. He'll learn and understand everything. None shall exceed him in scriptural understanding. He will become exceedingly eloquent. Yamaraj granted him invulnerability to his rod, freedom from ailment, and the boon of never losing heart in battle. Kuvera also blessed him that he would remain unwearied in battle. He's getting really some good stuff here. Shiva, he shall be immune to my weapons and from death at my hand. Vishvakarma benedicted, this Vanara shall be invulnerable to all celestial weapons forged by me, and he shall be long-lived. Brahma, circling back to him, This becomes important in the next part of his Hanuman's life. Your son, Vayu, shall be invincible in battle. He will prove the terror of his foes and the shelter of his friends. The jewel among monkeys shall be able to change form at his will and go wherever he pleases at any speed he likes. Then no Brahmana's curse will be able to kill him, and he will be immune to all chastisements on the part of the Brahmanas. That's important. His movement shall be unimpeded, and he will become glorious. In war, he will accomplish tremendous feats, which make one's hair stand on end, thus causing the destruction of Ravana and the pleasure of Ram. Indra, it concludes, seeing that everyone was happy and the mistake that he made is now forgiven and to the side, he made a final declaration. Hanuman's disappearance will be of his own choosing. He will be as swift as Garuda and as powerful as Vayu. He will also be called Anjaneya due to his being the son of Anjana. You are the peer of Lord Vayu in valor, speed, splendor, and unimpeded will. He and Garuda are twins in might and ability. That's pretty good before he does anything. Now, benedictions are not meaningless. They're especially coming from such qualified persons. They were with him for his life. Now, he knew all this. And, little boys, what to speak of little monkeys, will be mischievous. And when the Brahmanas were preparing for their yajnas and so forth, he'd come and take their paraphernalia, sometimes pull their beards, sometimes do bad things, make lots of disturbances. And they knew that they couldn't do anything to harm him. So the curse that was offered was that he would forget his power until he was later reminded. And that's what happened when Jambavan reminded. And we don't hear, this is in the very beginning, we don't hear about Hanuman until much later. Much later is in Kishkinda, where Ram and Lakshman have been sent to search out Sugriva and make an alliance with Sugriva. And they find out where, you see in the upper right of the painting, that's where, on top of Rishimukh mountain, where Sugriva is hiding out with Hanuman and some counselors. And when Sugriva, up above on the right, saw them traveling with bow and arrow and mendicants' clothing, he became very suspicious. Maybe this is some trick, maybe it's dwelling in disguise, and so forth. So he requested his chief minister Hanuman, who could change shapes at will, to go down the mountain and do some spy work. Find out what, are they friend or foe? Here's a nice painting. Here's Hanuman in the form of a Ramana. And you see on the right side behind him, there's some Vanaras waiting to see what's the word going to be. And the commentators speak of Hanuman in a very special way, aside from his valor and so forth. Sri Vaishnava Acharyas speak of him as a guru. In Now, he's not in that position yet, but he's acting as, in this case, as a mediator between Sugriva and Ram, or the conditioned soul who's captured by illusory energy, friend and enemy and all of that, and the Supreme Lord. He is that mediator, which is a intermediary function of Guru. When Ram and Lakshman see him, they don't know who this is. They get their bows ready, and as soon as Hanuman sees them, he is convinced they're friend, they're nothing to be worried about. So he transforms himself back again into a monkey form and speaks. He doesn't wait to be spoken to. He starts to speak in very direct and highly refined language, revealing who he is. And then he asks, who are they? Ram and Lakshman. So Lakshman then narrates to Hanuman the reason why they're in the forest, the reason why they're in these garbs and with the weapons, and he repeats that they were advised to find Sugriva and make an alliance with Sugriva. Hearing this, Hanuman similarly discloses everything about Sugriva. How he was banished from his kingdom by Bali and chased here and there and everywhere, and as a result, he's taken shelter in the forest for fear of Bali. It's very, the commentary speaks specifically about Ram is observing all this. So far it's just Lakshman speaking, Hanuman speaking, Ram hasn't spoken anything. And he's examining the potential representative guru. So he speaks to Lakshman and describes the characteristics that he's observing. His demeanor, his impeccable speech, his exalted qualities, his facial features, everything about him is very special. He doesn't, he's speaking to Lakshman. He's not speaking directly to Hanuman, which is a little unusual, maybe. But, Hanuman, Lakshman, as Balaram is to Krishna, or as Lord Nityananda is to Lord Chaitanya, Lakshman is to Lord Rama. So it's in the territory of finding someone to be empowered to carry out his will to find Sita. And again, as the Sri Vaishnava Acharyas say, at the time that Sita had a desire other than Ram's desire, she's now acting like a conditioned soul. She wants the golden deer and has her reasons of why she wants. She's not thinking about Ram's happiness, she's thinking about her happiness. From that point, she has problems. And so, in addition to being the consort of the Supreme Lord, in the Leela, Sri Vaishnava Acharyas consistently comment that she's now taking on another role for Leela purposes, in the role of a conditioned soul. So Ram then requires, or is looking for, a representative of his, a guru, to bring the conditioned soul or wayward soul back. That's how they present things. Now, Ram is very pleased, and Hanuman is very submissive. And the exchange continues a little, but since he is there on the back on the left, that's Rishamukha Hill or mountain. And Hanuman, in addition to supplicating, remember this is the first time, they're eternal associates, but it's the first time they're meeting, so it's very, very special. Very, very special. It reminds me very much of when Lord Nityananda meets Lord Chaitanya for the first time. the personalities are different and the circumstances are different. But the mood is very wonderful. So how joyful is Hanuman? And he then comes his first direct service. Besides being the mediator, he offers the service of carrying Ram and Lakshman directly to Sugriva, not just like showing them where they are, but let's go, I'll carry you there. And he expands himself into a very large Hanuman form. Hanuman, assuming his original monkey form, carried them on his shoulders to Rishimukh mountain. And it's a celebrated pastime, so there's many paintings of this service of Hanuman. A little more modern, like this one. Nice line drawing. They're enjoying the ride. And off he goes, carrying, because he can, with leaps and bounds, can cover territory. He can move very swiftly. He brings them before the place where Sugriva is. Now notice the configuration in this picture. It's part of a more comprehensive picture. That's the two. They're sitting on some lotus-looking seat. And here they are, seated on top of Rishimukh mountain. Down at the bottom, apparently, is Ram meeting Hanuman, and so forth. And when he comes before Sugriva, that's Sugriva with the crown, they're introduced, and immediately, again, the Acharya commenting, he's playing already the role of an Acharya, that is, establishing a relationship between the Supreme Lord and Sugriva, or the forgetful living entity caught up in dualities of the material world. And the suggestion is not only that they shake hands, as our modern custom, but that they take vows of friendship before a sacrificial fire. So that's what's done. Now there's Jambavan on the far right side, and other Vanaras. And Hanuman is in the foreground watching, very happy. On the ground next to Hanuman, between Hanuman and the fire, there's the ornaments, but once it's understood that Sita was kidnapped, they recall seeing Sita passing overhead and tossing down in a cloth the ornaments. And Sugriva had the ornaments put in a safe place in a cave. So here's a monkey handing the cloth that had the ornaments of Sita inside. And they're looking at the ornaments, and of course Ram recognizes the ornaments, and his thoughts go to Sita and the great misfortune that Sita has been put in. So Hanuman has a role in all of this. Then, just to move the story along, Sugriva's pictured here wearing the crown, right? And Jambavan is over on the right in his bear form. So Sugriva trusts the word of Ram, but he's wondering, how powerful is he? Can he accomplish? So Ram asks about his power, and he gives descriptions, which we'll cover later. The interaction with the buffalo, Mayavi, and so forth. So he wants to see the prowess of Ram. So he shows the carcass of the buffalo. Ram, with his toe, flicks it several miles in the air. Bali so strong when he had flesh on his body, he threw it a long distance. So what else? So Ram, Bali points out these 7 tall, thick sal trees and wants to see if he can pierce one of them. Ram pierces not only one of them, but all 7. And the arrow goes then into the earth, down to the bottom regions, and comes back into his quiver. So Sugriva was convinced he can handle Bali. So a decision is made that Bali should go, Sugriva should go request battle with Bali. Ram, hiding behind those trees, would then fire an arrow and kill Bali. Now this shows the second time, because there's Sugriva wearing a garland, but the first time Ram didn't fire an arrow, at least ostensibly, because he couldn't tell the difference between the 2 Vanaras. They look so much alike. They have different kind of pants on, or shorts, but he couldn't tell who's who. And Sugriva was getting smashed or trounced by Bali. There's Ram behind a tree, Lakshman with him behind a tree. Looks like Hanuman's with them also. And after he got severely beaten, he ran for his life. He entered the area where Bali wouldn't go because of the curse of Sage Matunga. You know the story. We'll cover it later. So Sugriva said, why did you make this promise and let me go if you didn't have the intention? I could have been killed. There's this nice explanation that Ram says, I couldn't tell the difference, but he's omniscient. So how could he not tell the difference? So I'll have Lakshman give you some distinguishing mark so we can tell who's who. And the solution was a vine. Now, when 2 wrestlers are fighting, what's a vine going to do? It's going to get ripped off in the course of the fighting. But so the real purpose, the Acharyas explain, is when they first met, Sugriva made an arrangement for Ram to sit on some leaves from the tree, but he didn't make an arrangement for Lakshman. Hanuman, understanding what's appropriate, he did. But Sugriva had neglected Lakshman. And it's not okay to neglect Lakshman, because Lakshman is like Balaram to Krishna. And Balaram to Krishna is like the original spiritual master of the world. So is Lakshman. And you can't neglect Lakshman. So Ram wanted this arrangement so that Sugriva could bow before Lakshman. As Lakshman is putting this garland on him, Sugriva had to bow. Okay. Unintentionally, you made up for the infraction of not honoring Lakshman properly. So let's go back, and they go back. And in the upper left, you see they're fighting again. And the main photograph or painting is Bali is pierced with an arrow. Now, when we have our conversation about Bali, we'll get into the conversation that took place between Bali and Ram. He criticizes Ram really bad, and Ram answers each one of the criticisms. We'll cover that later. In the lower right corner, there we see Hanuman with his club. There's Ram and Lakshman behind the tree. there's Bali getting the arrow in his chest, and Sugriva with his fists up ready to fight him. There we see Sugriva with the garland around his shoulders, and Bali with the arrow in his chest. So they come forward, and they have their conversation. The queens come forward and say what they have to say about the whole situation. And eventually Sugriva is crowned as king. So Sugriva makes a pledge. As now he has his wife restored and the kingdom restored, he pledges that he will assist Ram in finding Sita, but after the 4 months of the rainy season. Ram accepts, and as is to be expected, in 4 months, Sugriva kind of forgot his pledge because he became very indulgent in sensual pleasures in the kingdom. This is a painting showing at the end of the 4 months of the rainy season, Ram speaks to Lakshman about the forgetfulness of Sugriva and asks Lakshman to go and remind him. There's Lakshman on the right side going to remind him. Meanwhile, Hanuman is playing another guru function. He approaches Sugriva, who has forgotten his promise, his pledge to Lord Ramachandra. And Hanuman very tactfully reminds Sugriva of what he's forgotten. In the bottom, that's Lakshman coming to reprimand Sugriva, and on the right side, that's Hanuman reminding Sugriva. So here's the important text. Hanuman plays the role of a spiritual master by reminding the conditioned soul that one shouldn't forget one's service to the Lord when there is little opulence. That means Sugriva now has the opulence of being king. All opulences are nothing but the mercy of the Lord. So what follows is Lakshman confronts Sugriva. Tara comes forward to pacify Lakshman. There's Sugriva exiting stage right, his crown on. And there's many things that are said, but we'll cover those many things when we speak about Lakshman, because this section is about Hanuman. And now Sugriva sends the Vanaras in different directions, orders them to go to find Sita. Now when that scene takes place, Sugriva has had Hanuman as his chief minister, and indirectly in front of Ram and everybody else, he glorifies Hanuman. You're the one who's going to make this mission of finding Sita successful. I have all confidence in you. And it's not just nice talk. He knows, and Ram, the commentary says, Ram has been studying him. And these statements by Sugriva just bring confirmation. So now he's ready, Ram is ready, to officially not call him guru, but give him some very special empowerment. That is in the form of his ring. And the ring is to be given to Sita when he finds Sita. So Sita will know he's not just a monkey or something, but he is a representative of Ram. Very significant, this gesture. It's not only for Sita's purpose, it's for the mission, it's the empowerment. Ram to Hanuman. So the event of giving his ring has many nice paintings and drawings. As you can see, the one on the left is a line drawing, the one on the right is pretty much the same, but it's color. So Hanuman accepts that empowerment, and he's ready to go. And we're going to carry on until we get to Sundarakanda, and Sundarakanda is going to be a separate day, because Hanuman's such an important person. Actually, I plan to have 3 classes on Hanuman. So, everyone goes in these different directions. We see 4 different directions. And off they go, carrying out the mission. They're to come back in 30 days. And the group that's heading in the southerly direction, which is the direction they saw Ravana travel, but who knows, because he's a Rakshasa, he could be anywhere. This group that went in the southerly direction includes Jambavan and Angada, etc. And off they go, heading in this southerly direction. And after 30 days, many things happen. They can't find Sita. They're at the far shore of the ocean, and Angada is in anxiety. He doesn't trust Sugriva. He killed my father, and why will he not kill us? He's cruel, and I'm going to sit down and fast till death. And the other Vanras follow him. And Jambavan doesn't like this. We have a mission, let's find Sita. And so Angada starts speaking about his misfortune in such a way, he speaks loudly enough that Sampati hears about the misfortune of Jatayu. And when Sampati hears, he wants to be brought, because he can't fly because his wings are singed. He comes forward and requests more news about his brother. And he tells his story. We'll hear another class about Jatayu and Sampati. They're seated in a dejected manner, but Sampati tells them where Sita is. That I don't have wings, but I have vision, and she's there at the palace of Ravana on Lanka. Now here's a nice painting of, he was hiding in a cave, and the Vanras heard his voice, so they brought him before them. So now they're considering, okay, Sampati says she's in Lanka. Who can jump 100 yojanas or 800 miles? And some can, some, nobody can. Jambavan said, I used to be able to, but I can't do that anymore. Then he turns to Hanuman and reminds Hanuman of his powers. Hanuman, you're seeing nothing, but you're so powerful, and reminds him of picking up an elephant with one hand and tossing him around. You're so powerful, and you're the one to do the job. So as he reminds him of his powers, the statement of the Brahmanas is now withdrawn, and he starts forming or showing this large, gigantic Hanuman form, and he's now ready for the task. And that's the end of Kishkindakanda. And that's the end of this morning class. So this is personalities of Ramayana. That's the topic. So obviously, flow of the Leela is included, but the focus is the personalities. So Hanuman is the best of servants. Not only servants of Ram, but servants of the Supreme Lord. In the category of Dasya Rasa, just a little comment. When Rupa Goswami, in his writing, is discussing the 9 rasas, or mellows of service, excuse me, 5 rasas, and the 9 processes of bhakti, both. The epitome of service is Hanuman. The others are filled with devotees of Krishna, but no one can equal or excel Hanuman in the mode of service. And he's very special. He's most learned. He's the most at so many things, and very, very powerful, very, very capable, and absolutely devoted to Rama. And so he's honored in Valmiki Ramayana in a very special way. One whole kanda is just about him. Okay. We've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. And you've been very patient. So let's see if there's some discussion on Hanuman and his personality, his service to Rama.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. Maharaj, there's always a discussion or a debate of why did Lord Ram hide behind the tree and kill Vali. So, could you please help us understand, Maharaj?
Yes, there's many reasons, but one of the most important ones is there was the necklace that Vali was wearing was a gift of Indra, right? And the necklace was anyone who he encounters in battle, half of their strength will come to him. So if Ram were to confront Vali in a different way, he wouldn't get half of Ram's strength. He would violate Indra. And Ram doesn't want to violate the demigods. So he did it a different way. And the different way, then he discusses this, will be covered when he speaks to Vali. There's no violation of dharma when one is hunting a monkey or one is hunting an animal. It's within the codes of dharma to engage in combat from a hidden place or concealed place. So he upheld dharma and he upheld Indra's word.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. Thank you so much for the class. My question is, in India, we usually see in temple of Hanumanji, we have orange color of Hanuman, and we have orange tilak also. So why that orange color is?
There's a very cute story. It's funny.
Okay.
One time, the story goes, Hanuman asked, "What's that red that Sita wears?" And to not make it complicated, he said she likes it. So Hanuman heard that she likes it. So he went and got some and just smeared it all over his body. And everyone saw him like, Hanuman, what have you done? Well, Sita likes it. So it's a pastime that shows Hanuman covered. That, commonly it's not red, it's orange. That's the reason.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, how does the benedictions work? Is it granted by Krishna through the demigods? Demigods are granting these benedictions.
Well, either way you want to say it, they're both right. They get benedictions, but where do they get the strength to grant benedictions or to give anything? So they're acting as agents. It's not like Super Soul rings a little bell and says, you offer this one, and okay, now you offer that one. But it's, they're inspired, they're devotees, and they have powers, and they want to see Hanuman successful. So that's how it works.
A question from online. In regards to the explanation that Wali didn't show the same regard to Lakshman when they first met, the rectification or correction seems a little indirect. Since Guru Aparad is a pretty serious offense, why was not it addressed more directly?
You have to ask Rama. He sometimes does things directly and sometimes does things subtly. And as long as the person gets it, that's good enough. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaji, thanks for gracing our house and also for the wonderful class. So in today's world, when there is not so much thirst on relationships, how do you be Hanuman to somebody or be a Lakshman to someone? Yes, we all service Krishna, but in your relationships, how you could be Hanuman or Lakshman to someone? Because
Well, very simply, you remind them of what they've forgotten. Their eternal relationship with the personality of God. Very simple. Say the same thing in a slightly different way. Your best friend is one who reminds you of Krishna. To be someone's best friend is to remind them of Krishna. That doesn't mean you don't do other things. You can't help them or be kind to them in some other ways. The holistic picture of self is there. But at the heart, in the essence, is reminding someone of what they've forgotten. The relationship with Krishna that they've forgotten. There's different ways to do that. Okay? Srila Prabhupada.